Hi, my name's Bruce. This is my channel. Hopefully, if you enjoy this at all, I hope you'll do me the courtesy of subscribing. I'd like that a great deal. It'd be nice. Today, I'm talking about transit, urban transit, and I'm talking about in the context. I thought that I should make this video because it's like an emergency video, which should not be an emergency. But anyway. It's in the context of a major North American city that really does not have transit. And that major North American city is the city of Quebec, Quebec City, la Ville de Quebec. It's a wonderful place. I recommend it in every possible way. It's terrific. The food is wonderful. The people are wonderful. The scenery is great. It's an old world European French city in the heart of, well, in North America, and the sights are just spectacular. It's great. But what is not spectacular is the transit. There's none. And the fact that there's none, in a way, is good. The reason why it's good is because it means you have a blank slate, an open opportunity. You can do anything. And one thing that you must not do is subways. Subways would be a catastrophe. And the reason why subways are a catastrophe is because you don't want a construction project to begin, you want a construction project to finish. And in the same way as subways not being really a very good idea is an a less bad idea is surface tramways. And there's discussion now about surface tramways, and the reason why I said earlier that this was kind of an emergency video is that the government is slated to announce today that they're embarking on, I think, a surface tramway project, which now Quebec is also unique in the sense of a massive level of dispassionate assessment of reality and an appropriate response. So politics and emotion and such tends to get moved to the side in favor of doing things well. That's it. So, and an example of doing things well, if you get a chance, is a New Year's Eve in Quebec City is realistically that's the best place in North America to spend New Year's Eve. Okay, but anyway, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about transit. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of a diagram and a little bit of a map. Okay, Quebec. We have here. This is a river. Here we have a city up here. This distance is about nominally 15 kilometers. This distance is about the same, 15 kilometers. And just so you know, what I'm saying is the largest music festival in North America is the Summer Festival in Quebec, and it was last year's Summer Festival in Quebec that really cemented in my mind the clear necessity of improvement of transit in Quebec, because I was taking transit from here to here, and that you're taking a bus, and buses are just they're not good. Okay, buses are good if you don't have anything else, but if you have anything else, a bus is not good. Okay, so anyway, the idea is to do a kind of a transit affair that's going to go like this. Lines on a map. That's the affair, and they're talking tramway. Okay, and the people that have been. And this is a thing with transit projects, is they tend to get talked about for decades, which is fine. That's normal. Talking about it for decades means that you haven't spent decades making mistakes. You've spent decades in consideration of options, hopefully. So you get this idea that, there's an expanse of area that needs transit. Okay, but let's make it a little simpler. Okay, if you start, a simpler map is, this is the core. This is where most people want to be. Okay, this is these areas. This is not the core. This is not the core, but this is where there's a less dense concentration of people that want to get from here to here, from here to here, or and it's later in the day they want to get from here to here. Okay, so we have this. All right, now let's consider ridership, the number of people that you have on whatever conveyance you happen to have. So when you're out here, the ridership is less because this is someone's house and they've gotten on the transit system, and then here some more people's houses and they've gotten on the transit system. So the ridership goes up like this and like this. So in this central area, there's more people on your bus. There's more people. I'm saying bus in a metaphorical sense. I don't mean a literal bus, but I mean it's on your conveyance. There's more people here than there is here. Okay. So it's important that this bit in here is able to handle a larger number of people than this bit that's out here. Okay. Now let's talk about what is meant by the number of people. Okay, in this sense, we're talking about maybe from here, it's going to be a number in the hundreds per hour. Here might be in the thousands. In this context, we're talking about the city of Quebec. Here, thousands per hour, and here is more. Okay, so if you build, and I'm just talking about this one simple, this is like a simple diagram of a single line. Okay, so if you build subways, what happens is you build your subways, you start here, you build this subway tunnel. Let's pretend it's really simple. It's a single subway tunnel. This is a subway tunnel. Okay, and you start building it today. This is 2024. You start in 2024, your first passengers are going to ride on the subway in 2040. It's going to take you 15 or 16 years, if everything goes well, to build this as a subway affair. Okay, now let's pretend that it's surface transit. If it's surface transit, then you're starting today. I'm talking about the construction. Now, before the construction happens, there's a thing called, these are things that tend to be built by companies that are called EPC companies. EPC stands for Engineering, Procurement, and Construction. I have worked in engineering, procurement, and construction. So before anything gets happening, there's going to be a few years of design, and maybe there's already some design and such that you can dust off and get going, or people have been working on this for a while. It's fine. But what happens is you have a number like this. This is, I'm saying 16 years. An example is the city of Toronto has a thing called the Eglinton Crosstown. It's been under construction for 16 years. There's no promised date of completion. It's not done. It's carried 0 passengers so far. And the budget, who knows, tens of billions of dollars. That's not even very public. It's kind of a state secret practically due to avoiding embarrassment. Anyway, so that. Now if you build it differently and you say, we're going to, instead of burying this thing, we're going to build it on the surface, then instead of it being 2024, 2040, maybe you're going to get out to 2035. Okay, so you get a number, you've shaved 5 years off the construction, maybe if everything goes well, so maybe a little bit more, but the construction in this area tends to go more smoothly than in other regions of North America, but there's no magic bullet. You can't snap your fingers. There you go. Okay, so this. There you go. So now your plan is you want to move all these people. Okay, but how many people do you have to move? Really? It's not that many. I mean, in the big context. It's about the thing get going really, really well, it's going to be like 60,000 people a day. Okay, so there's another option, and it's also what happens with the surface construction is you're building it through areas that already have stuff. So you're building it on roads that exist. You're going to put in rail. You're going to have to remove portions of the road or large portions of the road. You're going to have to remove buildings. You're going to have to remove intersections. You're going to have to remove all kinds of stuff and do this. Now, if this is a subway, let's do budgets over here. If you're going to build a subway, and let's just say this is 15 kilometers. 15 kilometers. Subway, tramway, which is the surface deal, and this is the other way. Okay. So subway, a reasonable amount of money, it's $50 billion. Okay. Tramway, you're looking at probably $10 billion. $10 billion, 10 years. Okay? $10 billion, 10 years. What I say, something that should seriously be considered. Now remember the thing I mentioned, that transit projects involve decades of discussion. Everybody thinks it takes forever. It seems to. That's just the way it is. I talked earlier, like a year or more ago, about the high-speed rail system that was installed in Taiwan, and it's absolutely fantastic. But that took. The discussion started in 1968, and it opened about 6 or something years ago. I don't know, but it took 40 years. Okay, and 40 years involved 30 years of discussion. Okay. Now, what I'm saying should be considered seriously is this. Is teleferica or gondola, whatever you want to call it. If you're watching this in a major urban area and you're used to seeing subways and such, the reason you're seeing subways is because that's just what was built a long time ago. Modern projects often involve suspended transportation. Now, suspended transportation is not like an episode of The Simpsons where Marge Simpson gets on board with a monorail. No, suspended transportation is something like this, like a gondola. Now, you can build one that does the 15 kilometers. Why not? And if you're going to make the comparison between the $50 billion and the $10 billion, then this thing is going to take between, I'm going to say it's between, realistically, it's between 2% to maybe 15% of the cost of the next most affordable option, which is a surface mounted deal. And it's not just the money, okay? It's the opportunity cost. So by opportunity cost, I mean it's the aggravation price. So you're gonna spend, I said 10 years, but that's pretty optimistic. 10 years building surface. You're gonna spend 15 plus years building subways, which would be total madness, really. Or this thing, this gondola deal, realistically, it's like 2 years. Maybe 1, you know. And I suggested this diagram here is 15 years. Now what happens is people are going to say, no way, that's crazy, that's not going to work. And that's fine. Now I'm going to include some maps later. I'm going to paste some in. But that's crazy, that's fine to do that. And that's okay, because rather than doing 15 kilometers, remember I said you have this center point and people are coming from here and from here. So let's move our center point over here so we have it in one direction. But people are coming from here. So we're talking about the number of people that are on the unit, on your that are in your car, in your subway car, in your tram car, in your bus. And as you get closer to the center point, which is the center of town, the destination where most people are working, it's high, and when you're out here, it's low. I know I've said this before, it doesn't matter. But if this teleferique idea, the gondola, if you say, well, let's do this. Let's put a gondola here, and let's say this is 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers, right? 2 or 3 kilometers, and we do it now, relatively now. I don't mean tomorrow, I mean as now can be. And then this becomes a test, a demonstration, a proof. So if it works here in the short run, then you can infer that it will work in the medium run. And if it works in the medium run, then you can confer that it will work in the long trip. Okay. And the thing is, what you've done is realistically, you've saved more than 90% of the concrete, more than 90% of the excavation, and more than 90% of the disruption. And you've achieved 100% of the utility. And the utility is that people want to get from here to there, and traveling by bus is just no. Traveling in a private automobile, well, that's what people tend to do, but really, societally, that's just no, because, I mean, eventually you run out of road, you run out of everything, and they're bad. They're stressful, actually. Public transit is much more relaxing, really. Okay. This is the opportunity. Okay. The opportunity. And the prime installer of urban suspended transit is it's actually a French company. I think they're called Lot. I forget exactly. I mean, I know it. I forget it. Sometimes I forget my neighbor's name, and that's embarrassing, but it's true. Okay. But what I'm saying is that, please, consider the full suite of options, and consider the toe dip. By the toe dip, I mean you dip your toe in and you see how this is going to work before you commit to the full deal. And the full deal, if you go over here, this is kind of like a diagram of the full deal. With the full deal, you don't get to transport anybody until it's finished. Okay, so the first path, you start in 2024, I said 2040, that might wind up being 2045, it might wind up being, 2038, but you don't get to move anybody until it's done. And the thing, so that's kind of an advantage of buses, is because you already have a road or you have a pathway, you can buy a bus and there you go, you're off to the races, but buses are just no. But this time span, this disruption, by disruption, I mean you're tearing down buildings, you're expropriating buildings, you're tearing them down, you're removing existing infrastructure, you're rerouting water and sewer. Oh, it's a mess like you can't even begin to express if you haven't been involved deeply, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Well, the Toronto-Eglinton crosstown thing, that was embarrassing like 5 years ago, and it's gone past embarrassment to, geez, one day. Okay, you don't want that. There you go. So I'm presenting this to my admittedly sparse audience as an option, and this particular city has a unique situation where you have a remarkably progressive and educated populace, a remarkably progressive government generally in the province, and a blank slate when it comes to this type of mass transit. There are no subways, there are no tramways at the moment, there are no surface rails, what there are is buses, and I just know that, I mean, because the hills are so extreme here that you're traveling on the bus, and every time the brakes are applied, all you feel is the need for a new brake job and the tremendous maintenance that's necessary in keeping these things going, and the diesel is craziness. But anyway, that's it. My name's Bruce. This is my channel. If you enjoy this at all, I hope you subscribe. Thank you. And there you are. I mean, have a nice day. Okay, bye.